That's right. It's time to do business again. 25 minutes of giving you updates from the world of business. That's what we do on Business Incorporated. And here's what we have prepared for you. In Senegal, well, there seems to be a bit of clearing to be done about their debt status. South Africa inflation is surging. Of course, it's connected to the Middle East. Nigeria's housing deficit is still a matter of conversation. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwan. Oil prices today, that's where we're starting from, as uncertainty is lingering over the trajectory of the U.S.-Iran conflict, as President Donald Trump has extended that fragile ceasefire with Tehran, but signals tensions may remain far from being resolved. International benchmark crude and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures, we saw those edge really up today because of that uncertainty. More than 1% up is what we have for Brent, and for WTI, more than 1% also. Look at what's happening with gas. It's still in the same trend. Natural gas today is $2.73 after it gained 1.37%. Well, President Trump has said that the U.S. would prolong its temporary truce with Iran beyond the previously set deadline, citing a seriously fractured political situation within Tehran. That's what President Trump is calling it. The ceasefire will remain in place until Iranian leaders present a unified proposal to end hostilities with Washington and Israel. He shared this in a post on Truth Social. In the meantime, the U.S. would continue its blockade of Iran's ports. That's the story that's making the rounds. Over to the metal space, gold prices firmed as lower oil prices following the U.S. extension of the ceasefire with Iran. That's easing a bit of fears and inflation spike. Of course, prolonged interest rate, that is a possibility because of the uncertainty. So we see that spot gold is up 1.01%, $4,766.80. Spot silver also following the same trend, as well as platinum. Palladium is the only one that's on the downside this afternoon. It's 2.13% in the red, but the price is still around 1,500, while copper has also recovered like the other metals, almost 1% in the green. Has gone up to $6. Remember, it was about $5 when we had this program yesterday, so it's now $6.06. And of course, everything is connected to the Middle East and Iran and U.S. conversations and the probability of a peace talk. South Africa's headline consumer inflation edged up as expected last month, but analysts say that the increase would be far larger in April when fuel price hikes triggered by the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran are filtered through into consumer prices. Headline consumer inflation accelerated 3.1% from a year earlier in March, from 3.0% in February. That's according to, it just matched a lot of the analysts' projections when you look back at those numbers. Inflation is set to accelerate to about 4% in April when domestic fuel prices surged, despite the government temporarily reducing a fuel levy to try to mitigate the impact of the Middle East conflict. Still in South Africa, the state's power utility, Eskom, they say that they should be able to avoid instituting electricity cuts this winter, and that's thanks to a marked improvement in the performance of its plants, while highlighting longer-term supply risks and mounting overdue debt as key concerns. Eskom Holdings Limited projects no outages between April and August, and they should be able to maintain about 6 gigawatts of surplus generation capacity during the peak usage times. This is according to the Chief Executive Officer, Dan Marokane. Away from South Africa now, Senegal's Public Debt Director, Alion Diouf, has said that the country's debt is now fully transparent and aligned with International Monetary Fund figures, while rejecting suggestions of arrears outside a grace period. The comments followed the discovery of previously unreported liabilities and fresh claims for lack of transparency in swap contracts. The International Monetary Fund halted a $1.8 billion program in 2024 after the initial misreporting surfaced, putting Senegal's debt management under closer scrutiny. Mr. Diop says that the government and IMF were now using identical data after audits covering 2019 and 2024. And we're talking about housing here in Nigeria. I know Ladi had this conversation about the increase in rents focusing on Lagos, but it's not just the Lagos thing, it's a Nigeria thing. National deficit has been pegged at about 14.925 million units of housing early this year. Lagos market, obviously the most stretched, being the commercial capital. You have a lot of residency right there. So you see there the national deficit about 14.925 units. Lagos market, the most stretched in the country, estimated about 3.4 million units. Funding, yeah, that's Nigerians should say that's the cocoa. Funding requirements, approximately 21 trillion naira is needed to bridge this gap. Where can we get this money from? Should it come from the government? Should it come from the public sector? Annual demand, Nigeria needs to build between 550,000 and 700,000 every year. Where's the location? Homes, just to keep pace with the population. Well, let's get an expert insight into this this afternoon. We have joining us here in the studio Adetun Otekola, the founder and chief executive officer of Solid Foundation Group. Good to have you on the program, madam. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great. So we see the numbers. Does this number aptly capture, from your perspective, the issue of housing deficits in the country?
Yes, I'm even of the opinion that is even more.
So this is like under-reporting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we settle here the funding because, yes, we have a lot of factors, but the funding seems to be at the heart of it. And I know earlier conversation I had with you is the suggestion that cooperatives should come into the funding of the housing gap. How do you think that can work?
Okay, so I've been in the real estate space now for 32 years, and in the bid to ensure, one of the desires that our organization has is for us to create real estate investment opportunities for our clients that will be generational. So in the bid to, the housing is obviously the most expensive decisions most people would ever make. I mean, in terms of monetary terms. So I went to Lagos State Cooperative College to study about cooperatives. And one of the things that I found out, because I've been thinking about it, I also did a course in affordable housing essentials at Harvard. And housing deficit is not a Nigerian thing, it's global. But let's localize it now. So for the Nigerian bit, when a cooperative thing is about how people can use self-help to achieve what they want, is low entry because people are aware that this is their common goal. So they cut off middle, expenses. If people pull funds together and they start to at least own, by starting to own their land, the federal government has a proviso to give land at its title. They can give the corporators money to develop at 6% payable over about maybe 20 years, depending on the fact that the property has title. Now, because funding is not cheap, the federal government has also helped to build, they are bringing up ideas to help people own their houses. One of them is MRIF, where you can take as much as 100 million at 9.75% and pay till age 60. But even at that, not everybody can afford it. So when corporators come together, they have a common goal. They are using self-help. They use their resources. An architect amongst them is able to at least give an idea of how this would work. It reduces a lot of costing, and they get at what they want.
So let me just try to find out. You talk about cooperatives. Now, we know that at different levels, for instance, employees come together to form cooperatives. I've spoken to a group of female farmers, as a cooperative. You have traders as cooperatives. So it would be good to know what level of cooperative are we talking about. Are we talking about just people who come together, to form a cooperative, or would it be a government-recognized, registered cooperative?
It doesn't have to be a government recognized, and it makes it, it gives it an instrumental backing. It makes it more, it makes it a bit more formal when it is duly registered. You know that cooperatives are, with the cooperative mechanism, they don't have to pay taxes, so they get some rebates there, because it's not operated, they're not supposed to get, they don't make profits, they are just margins that they make. So yes, cooperatives can be multi-purpose. So in the multi-purpose cooperative, you can have savings, you can have people borrow to do different things. But when it is targeted as doing real estate, it's easier for all the people to own. What one person couldn't do as one, they come together to reach. Now, here, let me break it down a bit. So you're talking about unitization, talking about unitization. If one person couldn't own a whole block, and 10 people come together, and at least in the first instance, they're able to put their funds together to buy the land, it helps them. So if they register that organization, it makes it easier to manage.
Does it come, does it give the assurance of being a collateral, or something like that?
Yes.
Or it's just the people putting their funds together?
So if the property, if the land in question is registered, it can be a collateral. I said it here now that if the land is registered, the Federal Mortgage Bank can give a loan to them as a body to be able to, scale up and begin to build their houses. So yes, it will be the equity they have in that transaction.
When you talk of the Federal Mortgage Bank and you mention anything mortgage, in Nigeria, a lot of people will be, how workable is that? Because we do know the realities of our country, unfortunately. So while we have some of those policies friendly on paper, how many people really can access the mortgage? What do they have to go through? Do they need to know people? We hear of MREF now, and I've heard that it's working. I haven't had a taste of it or seen someone who can testify to it. And it's also, all of this bring the perspective of, are these things not just on paper?
No, they're not just on paper. So one of the things we need to do as Nigerians is for us to put the right foot forward. And a lot of people don't like documentation. For you to take a mortgage, which is, buying real estate is capital intensive, you have to go by the necessary requirements. It's easier for an association, a group of people to get together and access their mortgage than a particular individual, because the individual can change location. Even this mortgage thing, the federal mortgage thing, is even extended towards Nigerians in diaspora. They're beginning to profile them. So this is my own bread and butter, and I know that it works. So MREF works. People shouldn't be afraid to try it. It does work. You can reach out to me if you think it's, a fluke, and I'll show you how to go about it.
But you're saying that cooperatives, individuals can come together, form a cooperative, and then to make it easier for them to be able to own homes.
Yes, and they should register it properly through that cooperative model. Because an individual cannot go get a loan to build. You can only access, with the Federal Mortgage Bank, you can only access mortgage to build to buy a built home, not to build. But as a cooperative, a group of people that have come together, registered their interest, they would have at least 20 members. And they will go by the rules and regulations. There's a code of ethics for cooperatives, under the Lagos State, Trade and Investments. It's a properly structured thing. The Cooperative College has a provost and all that. So everything is organized. And they have sectional areas where they have regional areas taking care of each section. So it's very, very... I'm an alumni of that association, actually. And I'm also the treasurer for the alumni. So it's working.
And there's no threats of extra taxes?
No.
This is a new season of taxes in Nigeria,
No. Except you are doing any other business that this is obviously you're making profit of, you would have to pay taxes. Well, under the cooperative model, if you run it according to pattern, the rules and regulations, you should, it shouldn't be exposed to taxation.
All right, so let's reduce this deficit number if people come together and put their funds and get registered, and they'll be able to access their home.
Yes,
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
this tip. Adetun Wotekpola, the founder and chief executive officer of Solid Foundation Group. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so let's head to the markets now and see how stocks are trading at intraday, especially from here in Nigeria, where we see for Africa, majorly stocks are trading positive at intraday. Nigeria has recovered profit from the profit taking, which was very short-lived. Even though intraday yesterday we had negative, but by close of trade it was positive, and we see that we are solidly back up here. I think we've even gained a new level, 219,027.61. It's not the same for Johannesburg in South Africa. They are still in the red, 118,186.00. We'll go to the other markets on the continent. For Egypt, I wonder if we could have that number at this time. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to have it. So we'll move over to the Gulf, the Middle East, and we say most of them at intraday are negative, are still keeping that red color. Talking about for the Middle East, Dubai is negative 0.51% at 5,848.28. Abu Dhabi is also negative, almost 1% down. For the Middle East, the closest to what's going on in the world, Tata Wool is also negative. Just Qatar is able to escape that red color at this time. In the United States, after President Donald Trump extended that peace talks, we saw a change of sentiment compared to yesterday. 0.50%, S&P 0.55%, all in the green. The Nasdaq is also green at this time. So it's positive sentiments that we're seeing. A little bit of relief given after that extension. And then we move over to Asia, where the market has closed. They have their own green also, even though it's dotted with some red. Nikkei is green, Kospi is green, but Hang Seng is on the flip side, 1.22%. Traders obviously assessing the Middle East conflict after that extended ceasefire announced by the President of the United States. Shanghai is green, but Nifty 50 of India is on the flip side. Let's find out how European investors are looking at these sentiments, this extension of the ceasefire at this time. We have Chiponda Chimbelu. Hi, Chip. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. What's the sentiment in the market?
Well, the sentiment isn't very sure. European shares have been mixed today. The stock 600 was trading higher, but it is now flat, and that is the case also for Germany's DAX. But France's CAC 40 is actually down nearly 0.2%, and that is because investors here in Europe have been assessing the chances of U.S.-Iran peace talks after U.S. President Trump extended that ceasefire, but kept the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz in place. And while oil prices have dropped, or dropped initially, equities have been mixed. And that is because the quarterly reports of companies here in Europe have shown that the Iran war is already weighing on earnings of European companies. Now, a prolonged conflict in it could, of course, spell more trouble for European economies, which are net energy importers.
And to other issues now, German car makers with major operations in China, increasingly we see them shifting. Obviously, sentiments are shifting, so operators have to shift also.
Exactly, Amy. Just under 3/4. So that is 73% of German firms in the survey said that they increased research and development in China last year, and that is 4% higher than the previous year, according to the German Chamber of Commerce in China. And it conducted the survey to which more than 36 companies in the auto industry responded. Now, German companies have been, of course, facing more competition in China from Chinese car makers, which is something we frequently talk about here. And but now what is happening is that they're seeing China as a market which is becoming an important testing ground. Now, succeeding on the Chinese market could also, of course, help them become better at producing vehicles for different markets in the world. And that is something that we've also heard from the CEO of Volkswagen, which is Europe's biggest car maker. Now, Oliver Blume said that Germany can learn a lot from China. So German car makers appear to be shifting gears in China. They're no longer just focused on catching up and overtaking Chinese car makers. They apparently also want to use China as a testing ground, and hence that investment in research and development.
Yeah, but I think that was not the picture before now. Before now, it used to be German car makers were the market leaders, even in China.
Yes, exactly. German car makers, though, have been struggling to catch up with their Chinese peers. It's especially the EV sector, which has been a problem for them, because right now, more than 1 in 4 new cars that is sold is fully electric. And Chinese brands have been launching several consumer-friendly EVs, and German car makers have been, of course, losing ground in that particular segment. Now, they were, of course, once market leaders in combustion engine vehicle production, but of course their sales have been falling because of not making as much inroads in the EV sector. And Chinese brands, of course, have been known for producing more affordable vehicles, but that is also changing. And what they are doing now is also making inroads in the premium auto sector, and there they are targeting the wealthy consumers who used to go for German car makers, car brands, and that is, of course, something that we've seen in recent years. And their analysts have been saying that German car makers underestimated the ability of the Chinese auto industry. So, of course, that is what has been playing out, and of course, the Chinese car makers have had the advantage of lower manufacturing costs as well. Labor and energy are cheaper in China. So, in recent years, China's auto industry has boomed, and of course the overcapacity there has forced its car makers to expand abroad. So they've also been competing more with German car makers on their home turf here in Europe. So there's been a lot of shifts in the markets, and that is what we're seeing also with the research and development from the German car makers heading into having more activities in China.
Yeah, well, it does seem nothing stays the same forever. I mean, things will always change and positions will shift. But thank you so much, Lars, for sharing that survey with us.
Thanks you.
Let's head to the crypto space and see what's happening with the colors right there. As we've seen mixed sentiments in the stock markets around the world. Wonder what that's doing to the crypto space. I think earlier today we saw a gain on cryptocurrency, most of it that's Bitcoin, because obviously of that extension of the ceasefire. But it doesn't seem like we have the numbers. Now let's head to the top stories coming from that space. That the Russian government has submitted a bill to Parliament proposing that entities carrying out activities related to the organization of digital currency circulation and operating without a license from Russia's central bank could be subject to criminal liability, including fines of up to $4,000 and 4 years in forced labor camp. A draft bill submitted to the State Duma would amend Russian law to criminalize certain digital asset services that's offered without regulatory approval or a Bank of Russia license. That's it. In BlackRock, they spent $900 million on another Bitcoin purchase. Perhaps that should be able to move the market a bit up. Crypto billionaires suing Trump leak project, alleging extortion. Let's see how far he can push that. But that's it on Business Incorporated, as well as the program today from crypto, and we'll do it again tomorrow. But meanwhile, of course, you can watch our YouTube channel to get perhaps one of our parts that you missed. But I'll see you tonight. Let's see how the market holds up. I'm Ini John. Bye-bye.